Svetlana Alexievich, Secondhand Time, An Oral History of the Fall of the Soviet Union. Dive into the compelling world of A Secondhand Time, An Oral History of the Fall of the Soviet Union, by Svetlana Alexievich, and witness the powerful narratives that reveal the impact of the dissolution of the Soviet Union on its people. The book's summary promises a deep exploration into the individual perspectives of those who experienced the transformation, from the promise of perestroika to the unexpected shift to capitalism. Immerse yourself in thought-provoking accounts of allegiance, loss, and the profound challenges of adapting to a new way of life.
The fall of the Soviet era. In 1991, the Soviet Union faced a coup that failed after Muscovites protested against it. The country's president, Gorbachev, dissolved the Communist Party 6 days later, marking the end of the Soviet era. This dissolution was the final result of perestroika, which began in 1985 and was a period of unprecedented reforms in Russia. During this period, Gorbachev granted more press freedom and released political prisoners, which brought about a new sense of hope for a humane socialist regime. However, the dissolution of the Communist Party brought about unexpected change: capitalism. This shift was more severe since most people in Russia, especially those in rural areas, were already invested in the communist way of life. Russians on communism. Personal perspectives on the fall of communism in Russia from a diverse range of citizens, including former party members. Every Russian has a unique perspective on communism, and the author of this book sought to understand them all. Through gathering personal stories from citizens with diverse backgrounds, she found that former Communist Party members were deeply upset by the fall of communism and the subsequent rise of capitalism. One citizen, Elena Yurievna, sees both the negatives and positives of communism. She acknowledges the informants and labor camps but also values the compassion and camaraderie that the system nourished. However, she is deeply disappointed with Boris Yeltsin, who she believes misled Russia after Gorbachev's resignation by promoting a fixed socialism that turned out to be false. Others, like Elena's friend Anna, while acknowledging that the fall of communism didn't pan out as they hoped, still respect what Gorbachev was trying to achieve. They remember the positivity and hopefulness of the time before the coup in 1991. Overall, this book provides a unique insight into how Russians from all backgrounds view communism and its fall, highlighting the personal experiences and perspectives of former party members and citizens. The tragedy of communist ideology. Under communist leadership, state ideology took on a religious quality, and citizens were willing to endure terrible living conditions because they believed they were working towards a utopian vision of equality. But when the system collapsed, many were unable to cope, leading to a wave of suicides. The stories of Alexander Porfiryevich Sharpylo and Sergei Fyodorovich Akhromeyev highlight the struggles of individuals who had long believed in the communist dream, only to be left with nothing in the aftermath. The tragic consequences of communist ideology illustrate the dangers of blindly following any belief system, especially one that prioritizes the state over individual well-being. The devotion to communism under Stalin. The prevalence of torture and inhumane conditions in gulags revealed during perestroika did not deter the loyalty and dedication to the communist regime under Stalin. Survivors of gulags like Elena's father and Vasily Petrovich remained ardent communists, even raising children loyal to the cause like Anna, who joined the Komsomol. The militaristic version of communism under Stalin, despite the use of gulags, helped Russia emerge as a superpower and garnered deep devotion from its citizens. The atrocities of Stalin's regime. In this book excerpt, the author portrays the fear-driven society under Stalin's rule in Soviet Russia. The prisons and gulags formed an integral part of the Soviet political system where people were inclined to inform on others. The story of Anna's son illustrates how the government hired executioners, and people remained oblivious to their crimes. Executioner's uncle, Vanya, was tortured and forced to inform on his comrades, which led to his release from the camp. The aftermath of Stalin's regime revealed the atrocities committed by the state against its people. Some executioners were imprisoned, and others took their lives. Anna's son spent 7 years in prison for his crimes. The author's perspective reminds us that everyone, whether victim or perpetrator, did not escape the horrors of Stalin's reign. Brutality in post-Soviet Union. Former Soviet citizens share their harrowing stories of escape, survival, and unity amidst brutal violence and discrimination in Abkhazia and Baku. Olga and Margarita are two of the countless victims of the violence that plagued the former Soviet Union following its dissolution in 1991. In the region of Abkhazia, residents who had previously seen themselves as united Soviet citizens began to turn on each other based on ethnicity. Georgians and those perceived to be their allies were targeted, resulting in brutal murders and the displacement of thousands. Olga, a Georgian, was one of the lucky ones who managed to escape and flee to Moscow. Meanwhile, in Baku, the civil war between Armenians and Azerbaijanis tore families apart, including the marriage of Margarita and Abulfaz. Margarita, an Armenian, was forced to flee for her life and hide in an attic while her Azerbaijani family tried to stop her from reuniting with her husband. These stories highlight the dark realities of the post-Soviet era, where discrimination and violence ran rampant, but also the resilience and unity of those who persevered and survived. Russia's unchanged military nation. Despite the capitalist influence in parts of Russia, the nation remains deeply militaristic with a culture that glorifies the military. Alexander Laskevich experienced this firsthand during his military training, which he found dehumanizing and violent. The purpose of such training is to prepare soldiers to fight former Soviet states, even though the war in Chechnya is a prime example of disproportionate use of force against civilians. This culture of violence extends beyond conflict zones, where people are at the mercy of the authorities. Russians still face arbitrary arrests, brutality by the police, and even Stalinist interrogation techniques. Although Gorbachev may have dismantled the Soviet Union, the country's militarism persists, and Lenin statues still stand in many village squares in Russia.
In conclusion, Secondhand Time, an oral history of the fall of the Soviet Union, brings together the poignant stories of former Soviet citizens as they navigate the turbulence and turmoil that followed the dismantling of the Communist Party. The book summary lays bare the complex emotions, frustrations, and hopes amidst the aftermath of perestroika and the rise of capitalism. This exploration illuminates the powerful ideologies that shaped the lives of everyday people, and the challenges they faced in reconciling their values with the new reality. Ultimately, the book examines the far-reaching consequences of Russia's transformation, both in individual lives and the broader cultural landscape, bridging the divide between past and present.